but he's the last Ukrainian representative in the panel, and he will speak about narratives for foreign audience. But Dmitro, we spoke here about internal problems and how difficult it is to stand against Russian propaganda in Ukraine. But at the same time, we need to stand against that powerful Russian propaganda machine, which is successful, professional, and they work for foreign audience. And we have a lot of frustration. We don't understand why they are so easy to blame us that we are fascist, we are anti-Semitic, and we understand how clearly and how professional Russian propaganda works with mental differences, and how they work with feeling of the German feeling after World War II. How successful they use that, those sentiments. What should we do? We should work and live. Thank you. Everything which works outside, it's like it works inside of the country. If there is disorder in the country, you cannot work systematically abroad. It was very interesting for me to listen to all presenters, and I sign almost everything Irina said, and we need to train our public servants, and because managers or leaders, they will always try to use state bodies in their own for their own purpose, and that is just a reflex, and they will never stop. So, and how we need to explain to them why they should not do that, and that will influence whether they use that or not. And that's why we need to try and make management responsible for communication. We should teach them one thing: they can say no to their boss. A minister comes and minister leaves, and public clerks, public servants, they stay. I didn't see such cases of conflicts, of communication conflicts, because very often they come with their communication teams. Ministers come and they adjust all, and everything depends how you stand for state interest. But all the rest you told is correct. 400,000 public servants, they have mass in their heads. It's because nobody's working with them. They have no state message. As to foreign audience, I will tell you unpopular things. I think that Russian propaganda doesn't win in the world, but what is a victory? I found out about that on Friday. In Sofia, I was at the conference for Eastern Europe countries. And the representative from Serbia gave statistics. In Serbia, 54% of citizens believe that Russia is the main donor of the country, of Serbia. The country is in a total anti-European trend, and those who are against the European Union, they are senior pupils and students in the high school and in universities. 73% of donor assistance in Serbia, and they receive from EU and from EU countries. Russia provides only 0.1. But to convince people that Russia has nothing constructive for Serbia, it's impossible to convince people in that. And someone who's working in European Information Center told that even she has problems home because children were criticized her that she was receiving money from Brussels. That's the victory of Russian propaganda, but all the rest, it's a normal life. Information field, it's a permanent fight, and there will be always They will always find someone who will listen to Russian propaganda. When you say that, when somebody says that Russian propaganda won, it's because there are no criteria. Go to Germany and the gas station, speak to people who work in a cafeteria. If you test Ukraine, and they will say, no, I've never heard, and then they say, I'm in Germany and nobody knows about Ukraine, we are losing. So it's not efficient. MPs from Ukraine who go abroad and say, I spoke to my colleagues, deputies from other countries, and they know nothing about Ukraine. Nobody's doing anything. It's not a sample for objective assessment to say that Russian propaganda wins or not. What can be a sample? We need to have methodology, and we don't have a methodology. Everything is, there are people here who work in business. Just imagine a company comes and says, sell us. You need to do statistics. You need to do a campaign. You have to know all the details, and then you can understand. So we need to have statistics. Let's decide on the methods. And colleagues from the Center of Recommendations, my recommendation would be to develop a methodology of assessment of influence by the number of people at the gas station. We cannot decide whether Russian propaganda is winning or not. What is missing in work with foreign audience? We are missing Ukrainian content. We can build trust. And these are fundamental things. I agree with you. But there is no content. There is no PR. That's it. And there is no communication. Stop Fake is doing something. We are happy to take it and to use it. Ukraine Today does something. We are happy to support Ukraine Today. Media Center does something. We support them. Tatiana called me and told we have an idea and we're happy. All our instruments are at your hands. So give us a content. We are not a factory to produce content. I would be happy to run such a factory. Russia takes quality content and channels of distribution, nothing else. They're playing with right things, and they destroy trust to European governments. That's correct. But if we don't have content in Ukraine, if they don't answer to YouTube occupant, if you don't put something more positive about us, then it will be of good quality. Then they will lose. I don't believe Russian propaganda has a chance for victory because it's like a mushroom. It comes out on a body of something, and then it is trying to capture new territory. But if you have good immunity, that the disease will not spread. Russia will use her propaganda. That's wonderful. Let them waste their money. And Maxim told about trolls. I believe that half of the budget goes to that. Okay, let them spend. The idea is not to block their content, but we need to offer our content. That's the challenge for Ukraine. If we don't find time, resources to invest in production of our content, it means that we don't need that. Then we need to sit down and say, okay, the budget of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for information war is zero hryvnia, 0 kopecks. I don't know about in other ministries. If we have the information fight on that level, we should say, this is what we have. Then we should not demand. And now we work through donors, sponsors from all the world to to improve some production, for us to have it. If we do that, everything will be fine. Everybody would like to help us. You asked about those articles, etc. First of all, because some people are working with those journalists, it's not necessarily to bribe them. There was a wonderful article in New York Times. Okay, good. They wrote about the factory of Akhmetov in Avdiivka, about the civil war. But that's one article for negative article, and there were many other articles, and they want to help us, and I speak to many people, to journalists, and sometimes I'm even tired, but they need content. They give them something, and content. Some people, it's very difficult to make money in general here, and some people produce something for the state as volunteers. You know, there are some limitations, so volunteers help, and they help to our armed forces and to our information, and that's wonderful. But here's a question: as a public servant, and if in a year we were able to put our army in a good shape in a year, but if you don't produce content in a year, after a year, what will be the next? There will be victory? Yes, because I'm sure that we will win. Thank you for being optimistic.
Thank you very much for your optimistic note. We finished the Ukrainian part of our panel. We started with Latvian presenter, and we're going to crown it up with information about the experience of Latvia. I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Dr. Martins Kaprans, head of the working group on development of media policy, Minister of Culture of Republic of Latvia. At least they started to develop that policy, media policy, and they are several steps at least ahead of us. Mr. Martins Kaprans, you had a chance to hear not so much optimistic and sometimes optimistic conclusions of your Ukrainian colleagues, and you have the understanding of the problems we face today. How the Latvian experience could be helpful in Ukraine today? Thank you. Доброго дня.
For inviting me to this interesting panel discussion. And first of all, I think it would be good and right way to start my statement with some self-critical assessment, and meaning that actually Latvia for some time at least, I'd say for maybe first half of year after the Maidan started, was in terms of information and Russian propaganda, was a bit as the famous Soviet cartoon Ежик в тумане, as a hedgehog in a fog a bit, trying to understand, what to do. Of course, Latvia was not the only country, I would say, in the region. Everyone was confused to some extent and embarrassed how to deal with this avalanche coming from and through Russian propaganda channels. And so living in this fog for some time, you already start to orientate, try to find some, signposts which could lead you somewhere. And thus, gradually, we in Latvia, we have come to some policy-level solutions, and one of those solutions is to elaborate a midterm framework of how to strengthen media system in Latvia in general. But I would like to maybe address, as there was so much said already about propaganda, and I just don't want to repeat all these, of course, important things, as I also have done some research actually on Russian mainstream TV channels dealing with Ukrainian crisis until the annexation of Crimea and so-called referendum on the 16th of March. 2014. But I will more maybe focus on simply on the framework, how we are trying to deal with, and maybe that could give you some also analytical inspiration, how we are trying to deal with this problem, with the defense of our media space, actually. So, and we actually have, we are trying to address problems in different levels. First of all, we see some problems definitely on the regional level in Latvia. Namely, the so-called Russian-speaking regions, largely in the eastern southern part of Latvia, which is along the Russian and Belarusian border, where we have some problems to reach the Russian-speaking audience via national channels, and that's one of the problems which actually is addressed and we are dealing with. But along with this problem, there is maybe even more important is that we have so-called illegal or semi-legal providers of different Russian channels who operate just, pay, I don't know, 2 rubles or in euros, I don't know, maybe 3 euros per month or 1 euro per month, and you are watching, 20 or 30 channels, majority of them in Russian channels, of course. And how to deal with these illegal channels, which is actually captures huge audience in Latvia. And maybe even more, therefore that's more important problem than to reach those living on the borders, on the border with Russia. So this is a regional level, and that's very important, as sometimes and often the problem starts from the regions, as you can see also in Ukrainian case, especially those regions which are bordering with Russia. And then another level is, of course, national level. And Sarmit already mentioned, and I'm not going so much to look at the Russian-speaking channel, to which we are working now, actually, and we are developing. Just want to maybe add that a similar channel is being developed in Estonia also, in our neighboring country. And actually, Estonians, the anecdote about slow Estonians, again from the Soviet time, but actually Estonians are very close to open their channel already in the autumn of this year. And the government has allocated around 2 million euros for this year, and hopefully, not hopefully, I know that for next years as well, to develop and to strengthen the new Russian channel. And it's actually very much based on the crowdsourcing idea, that at least how they are trying to present themselves, they try to show that the content will be created based on the crowdsourcing, that the audience will actually define what they want to see. I mean, the Russian-speaking audience. So it's a risky but interesting idea. But then on the national level, of course, we also face, when we speak about the developing Russian channel, we face with certain problems regarding our language policy, definitely. I mean, on the one, and that's a dilemma to some extent. On the one hand, we understand that the only way how we can approach a large group of Russian-speaking audience is to speak in, or to create content in Russian. But then in Latvian case, of course, there is always this anxiety that, to protect Latvian language as the only state language. And then there is this dilemma. But the way we are actually approaching this issue is, on the one hand, of course, we can't refuse or we can't go other way as to use Russian language as a medium, to reach the Russian speakers. But then we also can use it as a tool, actually, to strengthen and to teach Latvian language. So we also are looking from this perspective to Russian channel, not just as a threat, but also as an opportunity. And then, yes, and of course, there are certain international issues we are addressing in our media policy currently. One, which was already mentioned, but I really want to stress that we are very tediously, so to say, working on is to influence the EU level regulation vis-a-vis the so-called country of origin principle. Actually, Latvia is taking a leading role now as being a president, holding a presidency, EU presidency, has a leading role in terms of refitting or redefining the country of origin principle, which actually guarantees now that RTR being registered in England, in the UK, or NTV Mir being registered in Sweden, is under the jurisdiction of those countries who simply can't, as was mentioned already, these 3,000 channels. UK simply is not able to monitor the content of those countries and is not able to react in a proper way when, for example, our local regulatory body identifies hate speech or some other violations of European Convention or other domestic norms. So, hopefully, I mean, to be optimistic, I would say that we are really slightly heading towards that it will be revised, but it's my optimistic prognosis now. I mean, the EU regulation, which is very important for us, I mean, for those countries where we have a huge Russian-speaking community and where Russian channels are trying to address these communities. So, at the very end, I think I also want to end with something optimistic. I mean, I was asked at the very beginning, before we started our panel, to be a role model or to show where to go. But actually, we can learn a lot from you how you are dealing, because we are also we are sharing the same security concerns, but we are, maybe sharing in it more comfortable situation. Yeah, we are close to the war zone, but we are not in the war. But therefore, we can learn a lot from you, and even such maybe trivial but very, very important things as the way actually you are debunking and mocking Russian propaganda. So Stop Fake is a great example, and I mean, I think we are actually always, keen on any mockery which comes somewhere from Ukraine produced and mocking Russian propaganda. For example, you have this. For example, I know one of those comedy shows is mocking Kiselev's program all the time, which is really, a lot of fun. I mean, the way how to deal with propaganda can be also through fun and mockery. Of course, it's one way, not the only way, and we can learn from you that. So, thanks.
Дякую, панові Капранцу. І оскільки ми вже підходимо до завершальної частини нашої дискусії.
Thank you very much for that, and since we are approaching the final lap of our discussion, I also have I see that we have questions from the audience. Please introduce yourself. Andrei Homa, head of the Ukraine Coordination Council. I would like to thank very much to the Ukrainian Media Center for this meeting today. And before three short questions which I'm going to put, I would like to thank Tatiana Yurina Klitschkovska and Evgen Fedchenko, Maxim Savanevsky, and Dmitro Kuleba. I assure you, you fulfilled your mission. I got a lot of information. You're telling the real truth that you are constructive and professional. I have a question to Ms. Sarmita Ilerte. Please tell me, in your opinion, can Ukrainians be taught how to efficiently counteract the information aggression? If you're talking about the Russian financial streams and flows which are used to create very powerful Russian propaganda channels, or if you're talking about the Russian propaganda conveyed by Russians to enter different European media structures. Another short question I have, and I would like to address to Tatiana Popova. in your opinion, who prevents Ukrainian propaganda to talk about the center of propaganda with the center in Kiev? And the third question is to Mr. Alexander Leshkevich. Again, in your opinion, based on your rich experience, why the people, as soon as they become officials, they stop to tell the truth? So what question we start with? Tatiana, perhaps you can start and answer your question. As I mentioned before, almost for 1 month and a half has been working in the Ministry of Information Policy. I believe that over the last 1.5 months, what prevented me to deal with the topic of Ukrainian Center in Ukraine, because I was busy trying to rebuff different other attacks, both in the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Information Policy. Honestly speaking, we have only 2 deputies, 1 minister. So we try to attend all the roundtables which are being held. At least each one of us, with our advisors, take in consideration that they have to work in 2 different ministries. Well, speaking in principle, the idea is absolutely logical. I know that this topic has been already raised by European Union, but I don't know, but somehow I think that Latvia will take part of this task, shoulder part of this task, because Pan-European is a Russian language channel. As far as I know, they're going to create that in Latvia. And we'll be happy using our, let's say, opportunities where we are going to have the Russian language editorial board, and we have a lot of former Russian journalists, opposition journalists who emigrated to Ukraine. We would be happy to use this Russian-speaking editorial board for this channel. Maybe this would become one of the tools or means, not the propaganda, but kind of promotion of something that the Slavonic world can exist separated from Russia. Yes, of course we want Russia to change, to become more European, more adequate, and never attack their members. But as far as they are like they are today, we have to think about the eastern neighborship problem. Who else would like to answer the question? I'm talking about the member of the panels.
If I understood in the right way, you ask, can we? My answer is yes, we can. Because if I remember old days in Soviet times, always Latvians had to deal with this mark Latvian fascists. And it was important, I think, for Soviets, because we had really very influential emigres, expats who lived in US, and thanks to them, the idea that Latvia and 3 other Baltic states was illegally occupied, and Americans never, not only Americans, but mostly all, not all, but biggest part of European countries never recognized occupation of Baltic states. So it was important for Soviets to struggle against these influential Baltic lobby groups. We know that there was and there is very big and strong community living in US and Canada from Ukraine too. And you got this mark, fascists too. So, but problem is that during Soviet times, and it was already mentioned, and in the beginning it was, I couldn't understand why, we were laughing about Soviet propaganda. My generation, nobody believed to those lies. It was just funny. They were dying one after other, these generals, secretaries, and It was just funny. End of Soviet Union was just funny. But now when I'm looking on these 86% or 84% maybe now in Russia who support Putin, it's not funny, it's strange. This propaganda works. So I don't think that it works toward, let's say, bolts, that it works towards biggest part of, I don't know, Ukraine. I already mentioned these numbers. Is Russia's aggression against Ukraine, is justified? No, said 82% from Latvian speakers, and 44% from Russian speakers in Latvia too. They said no, we don't think that we can justify this kind of aggression. But such an aggressive information as a weapon, never ever existed before 2014 or before 2014 or end 2017. I never remember something like that. So it's impossible to say that we can do something just separately for others. We need to cooperate. We have to exchange experience. As Martin said, we are learning from you a lot, because of course Ukraine now is target of all this dirty campaign. Just very rare now they remember about poor Latvians, no, poor Russians who live in Latvia and things like that. But of course, one of our task of journalists, intellectuals, everybody who care, is always to try to understand when we invite some professor to comment some events. Who is he? Who is this expert? Is he independent, or he already is bought by Russia? And journalists sometimes are too lazy just to check or just to ask who is these persons whose opinions is then transmitted to population, to our audiences, our societies. Of course, a lot of NGOs are influenced by Russia's money. So, but I think that we are in new situation which never exists, and I already said it about this trolls phenomenon. If we understand, if we know about dangers which could come, then it's easy for us. It's easy for us to avoid or to struggle to them. We should know and we should cooperate. Therefore, we can.
Дякую, пані Елерте. А в нас є тут ще одне питання.
Thank you very much. We have another question here. Tatiana Pashnova, General Producer of Ukraine Today. I would like to, first of all, to answer your question of the previous speaker, because when you ask whether Europe has a right to teach us how to oppose this propaganda, to fight this propaganda, I would say yes, they have this right. Given the example of the same jellyfish, Medusa, right, channel. When they strayed of Kyiv becoming the center of Pan-Slavonic democratic world, Representative Lentaru came to Kyiv, and they with this idea to let's say to do that in Kyiv. Unfortunately, they did not meet with the support, and they went to Latvia, and they work now there. And this happened because of kind of a set of different reasons. I'm really sorry that you're leaving, because I have a lot of questions to you. Just 5 minutes, if you can stay, please. Please, sir, come back. And that's why Europeans, they have everything what we are talking about and what we do not have. In each country in Europe, they have the understanding that regarding the information security. strategic communication of the state, the difference between the state and political, or public and political. We have to talk about that. They have to give us advice, recommend, come here and recommend what to do. They have this right, and this is really right thing to do. And very good that we have this possibility to have this discussion here with involving different representatives from different public agencies, business circles, and journals. So, do they have the right to teach us? Yes, they have this right. This is number one. Number two, speaking about the content mentioned by Dmitro, and regarding your, and I would like to somehow to combine two different things. As a representative of media business, it's very important for me that nobody actually puts some barriers in my work. So it's very good that here we have a regulatory company, and it should have existed a long time ago, because if you're talking about the National Council on the TV and Radio Broadcasting, you were talking about a strategic project, and we were issued the license in a very short period of time. This is really was cool, you know, and it's very important in the information sphere. But my question, or rather not a question, but a rhetoric remark regarding your activities. You mentioned that you try to limit the access toward the Russian TV channels. You try to restrict the access to serials, etc., etc. So in doing that, you put the business under the conditions. Number one, we have a huge crisis living through. We have the decrease of the state budgets, and you try to put us under conditions when we have no right to, let's say, to do whatever we want with this small content we have. As media business, we would like to have the public agencies help us, assist us. If you say, let us not show or demonstrate Russian serials, then recommend us or offer us something, some kind of mechanism when we could demonstrate the Polish serials under some kind of attractive, within the attractive price limits, you know, because the Russians offer the Ukrainian media market this product because this is not expensive. This is a cheap product. This is another public policy. The same, very aptly said Irina, that we lack communicative strategy. We understand what the country needs. I'm always on the route, you know, and I travel a lot. You said that Russian information weapon is always there, but please show us, give us some real proof that this is Russian aggression in Ukraine. We are talking about that since summer last year. Ukraine Today, we presented some project. You can visit our website. We called it From Russia with Love in English language. And we collected anything we could find on the internet. And please now be attentive. My remark regarding the civil servants, where we can see where is that there is Russian weapons present in Ukraine, Russian aggressions, what facts we have, etc., etc. When we were launching that project, and we delayed this launching, you know, because we addressed the SBU, the security service, etc., etc., and we asked them, you have the proofs or evidence, please give us, share that with us, and we will demonstrate it. And we actually encountered some kind of misunderstanding. So you said you can find everything in the internet, but again, this communication strategy must exist in the state first of all. When we are talking that we are going to have some kind of TV channel which will broadcast something, you actually taking away from us our bread and butter, you know, and because you are going to use this the experience of some public broadcasts to spread this information. Okay, we are prepared to give us content to you, but you have to give us some grounds to do that. I will try to briefly answer your remarkable question. As far as I understand, that we are on the contrary try to help in both your channel and the industry as a whole, because as far as I know, the industry, on the contrary, is happy about the fact that in this way or another we managed to, through the courts or through our cable operators to take this kind of hideous TV or notorious TV, Russian TV channels from our air. Regarding the banning of Russian serial movies, nobody banned the Russian series. I repeat myself. It's really, I'm really sorry that you did not attend our meeting with the industry. The issue was like that. So guys, please, you have to decide yourselves what kind of movies or serial movies you do not want to demonstrate in the future. Which of them you regard as hostile to Ukraine today? Unfortunately, those TV channels, I repeat myself, failed to come to the same opinion. They had a heated discussion for about an hour. They were of different opinion, and as a result, they say, whatever I say, this will be your decision, meaning not theirs but ours. And this is not the prerogative of our council to pass such decisions. We have Minister of Culture who should take those decisions. And myself, just as a human being, as a citizen, I can agree with something, with some other things I would not agree. As regards the content of our production, again, I would like to say this is not the prerogative of the regulator. Here we can just to help you to come up with some initiatives and address them to our Parliament, our Verkhovna Rada, and to suggest some kind of privileged vacations or to simulate somehow our serial movies, Ukrainian movies, by giving them some kind of preferences. Not us, but our new adopted laws. So here, no problem. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock we are going to have another meeting with the reps of our national TV channel. So please, come there and speak up your mind, and we'll try to help you. Okay, Tatiana is ready to answer. Unfortunately, information war actually takes away some of our people. Max Savanevsky actually started to provide training to some of our foreign ambassadors, and we have a couple more questions I can see, but please. My name is Alexander Manchuk.
Baltic Black Sea Alliance. Дуже багато років. Thank you for being here, Samit. І яким...
For many years. I have a few words. I'm co-founder, and there is a YouTube internet channel on TV. We have 78,000 subscribers. We have 19 million visits. Me and my younger brother, it took us half a year to create that. So Dmitry, take your monitors and let them monitor what they release, and put a lot of products which we have, and disseminate those products, spread them. We have a huge work. Every day we have some kind of video which we put on our site. And our colleague mentioned already that you never provide some examples of the military equipment or speaking about the tanks, we spent 3 days in Newman and we tried to fish whatever they had in the internet. More than 3,000 visits, and those are our own kind of investigations. Again, this is fantastic work, but you're working in one field in different. Where are you from? OMTV, Minister of Information Policy, and I believe that you managed to do everything. I would actually re-channel your budget. We have only 4 million for the rental and the salaries of all our employees. No, I'm not fighting you, but when I'm talking about what our Latvian colleagues have done, I would like to.
Просто фантастичні приклади. Тобто це та робота, яку вони роблять, це ті дослідження, які вони роблять. Пані Ірино, ми знаємо.
It's fantastic what we were doing. As a former public or civil servant, I understand only too well. The more there will be positive work on the part of the government, the more we could more tools will have to spread that information. But so far they're not really efficiently working, and there are not very much to talk about. But this is our problem. I would like to thank the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center when working with Mr. Taruta. You repeatedly gave us a hand. As you can see, we are working different directions. So let's support the product which we are doing ourselves. We are doing some small part of the work, but the Russians who watch our materials or our and they try to block the bots. Somebody 1 month ago asked me, who is doing this product? What kind of editorial board? I said, myself and my brother. They say, how come? Yes, we are trying to edit that in our house when we have 19 million visits, 17,000 subscribers who are waiting for our new news or new materials every day. So this is a small prelude of our work, and I really would like to appreciate that we are always in contact with Latvia, with our colleagues, our Latvian colleagues, and contacting each other in the holding such conferences. We contribute our modest contribution, make our modest contribution to our victory over Russia.
I have to leave in 5 minutes. We start to evidence of Russian participation. We support the project Inform Nepal, which is clearly shows Russian tanks, Russian cannons in 10 languages. You can take that language you like and use it, use the data. I asked the press associate of the Ministry of Defense why they didn't answer to you, because we have it in English even. Evidence of Russian war, Russian presence in the East. We'll have unofficial communication, off the record communication. No, I will not, because I will have to leave. I would like to respond to you. I wrote to you on Facebook that I will watch your channel. We monitored everything. And on our web page, a separate page, which and with a button, Ukraine in English, and I will look at your channel. Everything is fine. I have to be confirmed. We'll be happy to add you. And there is no problem with that. We are always looking for new resources that can be a source of content, but it doesn't matter how great you are. It doesn't solve the problem of the content which I mentioned. Thank you. More questions? Thank you for this opportunity. Kantorov Sergei, the first and the last in the Security and Defense Council. I was responsible for communication, and we worked on negative influence of information, and we spoke to administration of the president. For 3 years, they told us there is no such a problem. So there is a problem, and I disagree that we cannot define how efficient propaganda machine of Russia. It is efficient, and it's easy to see because we are losing our territories. We are losing people. The mind. I agree with the last presentation that we don't have a doctrine, but I don't understand why. The doctrine we had in 2008, it was signed by the president. Why it was cancelled? We developed it, and there are three institutions participated. We developed the doctrine. Probably because of politicians did it. I agree that we don't have content. That's the most important. And Ministry of Information should work on content. And we dreamed about that in 2009. And we prepared documents for that. Content is the most important the Ministry of Information should deal with. we need to see those movies which are supported by the Ministry of Information and Culture, for example. We want to watch those movies. The more the better. I liked the presentation of our Latvian colleagues. You have a very interesting opinion about creation of sort center of which accumulates all information about cyber attacks on information sources. This, as I understand, you are planning to set up such an organization to register and to cooperate on negative influences, to how to counteract against the propaganda. Thank you. And we have one more question, and then I suggest that we'll have informal communication.
I have a question for the Latvian colleagues. 2 weeks ago, after the meeting of the EU heads of governments, they have requested Federica Mogherini to come up with a plan to counter Russian disinformation. I just wonder, what are your expectations? I believe to a great extent both Baltic countries have been lobbying for that. But there are two things which are necessary to counter Russian disinformation. It's innovative approach and money. And unfortunately, these two resources are quite scarce in the EU. And I wonder what are your expectations, and if you think you could use the Latvian presidency to lobby for more funding actually on the European level, which could be allocated for that purpose.
Дякую. Пані посол зможе відповісти.
Yeah, the answer to the question regarding the European Union Council. Really, the 16th of March was a council meeting, and the Latvian minister raised this issue, or we have prepared this issue to work on strategic communications in the European Union, to pay more attention to strengthen capacity of strategic communication. So this issue is taken on the agenda, and the working group will be created, and the first opinion how we can proceed in it will be communicated in the June's Council. So we are working on it, and this is true that Latvian presidency raised this question. We pay really very, very big attention to that. Thank you.
Дякую, пані посол. Колеги, на цьому пропоную
Official part of our roundtable is closed. Now we'll have off-the-record communication in our lounge